Welcome to the Coahoma Community College Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning podcast series. I'm your host, Dr. Ouida McAfee. Today we have an esteemed alumnus as our guest, Dr. Larry Glover, who is going to talk with us today about motivating student athletes. Welcome, Dr. Glover.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. McAfee. It's my pleasure. I'm excited and just happy to be back at Coahoma, in a roundabout way.
And we are happy to hear from you. So I'm going to tell our audience a bit about you. Dr. Larry Glover is the Associate Professor and Director of Teacher Education at Fisk University. He served as the Fisk University Athletic Director and head men's basketball coach for 10 years. After spending several years away from Fisk, helping to start a charter school and teaching at Nashville State Community College. He completed an Associate of Arts degree from Coahoma Community College. He graduated from Fisk University with a BA in Health and Physical Education. While working in Metro Nashville Public Schools, he completed his master's in secondary education from Tennessee State University. Dr. Glover earned his doctorate degree in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in reading education from Texas Southern University. Under Dr. Glover's leadership, Fisk has seen the athletics department increase the number of sports programs sponsored with the addition of soccer and golf, and installing new seating in the Henderson A. Johnson Gymnasium. Dr. Glover has served on the NCAA Management Council Committee and is currently serving on the Executive Committee for the NAIA AII Conference. During his tenure, the program established a new major, a BS in special education with a grant from the Tennessee State Department of Education, and gained full accreditation from the Tennessee State Department of Education, and developed a partnership with Belmont University Teacher Education Department. Dr. Glover is married to Katina, and they have 3 children, Chelsea, Jeremy, and Kristen. Again, welcome, Dr. Glover. Let's just jump right in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
What are some evidence-based practices for instructors that you recommend as it relates to motivating the student athlete?
Oh, good question. First of all, when you think about student athletes, the first word is really, really important. From coaching, I like to say that, you're here as a student. You're a student first. Mm-hmm. The evidence-based practices, for teaching strategy that works for non-athlete, work for student athlete. And the first one, this has been, research back and evidence supported.
Okay.
It's crucial that from day one that you are clear about what you want your student or student athlete to learn during their time at the college or university or the lesson. Establishing clear goals. A lot of time, and when I did this, when I became a coach, I didn't have a lot of experience as a coach, but I had more experience as an instructor. So I brought my philosophy of teaching and learning to the athletic arena, and it worked. We have positive results in terms of graduation rates, because it's the same thing. Even if you have your practice, if you run a practice, if your goals and objectives are not clear during this practice, it's going to show the results are not going to be positive. So, and that's the same thing with teaching. The effects that such clarity has on student results is greater than the effect of holding high expectation of every student. And we know high expectation, they tell you that in education. Number one, have high expectation. But according to the research, establishing clear goals, the number one strategy. For example, a clear lesson goal, I'm going to teach this lesson. And at the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to distinguish facts from an opinion in a passage with 80% accuracy, as opposed to just saying, today we're going to teach facts and opinion. See, there's a difference. You say we're going to teach, and it works for the student and the teacher, because it lets the teacher know, okay, how am I going to measure this? and it lets them know how they are going to be tested, or what they're going to be expected to be tested on. So it's a back and forth of a thinking process, and keeps the students engaged in the lesson, because okay, fact and opinion. In the end, I'm going to be evaluated on this. And evaluation, that's another thing when your evidence. Evaluation doesn't have to be high stakes at the time, but it can be done in different ways. It can be done through questioning throughout the lesson from the instructor. A veteran or a savvy instructor knows how to generate question and go back and forth, and to call on all the students, give all the students an opportunity to check for comprehension or learning during that lesson. And another one, this is all in one lesson, and another based on evidence-based teaching strategy. During the lesson, it said, show and tell, giving that same, example or setting while you're teaching. If you're going to teach fact and opinion, you're going to begin the lesson about, giving them some examples, talking about, okay, what's the fact? What's an opinion? Why is this an opinion? Can it be proven through research, evidence? Do we have evidence? Or you can give them just something that's hot off the press on the news, right now, the case with the murder, something like that. Right now, the evidence support what happened, but prior to that, court cases are really, really good when you're talking about fact and opinion, to teach fact and opinion, because you can look at a statement and the attorney is going to give you some more evidence. Do the evidence support the statement? So you want to do show and tell, talk about it, and model the process, the thought process for students.
Dr. Glover, I want to dig into something that you said earlier about expectations and setting expectations, specifically for student athletes. As a coach, what kind of expectations did you verbalize or tell your students that were required?
Oh yeah, good. Okay. The first meeting in the fall, when you meet with what I did when I met with my team, the first meeting, several things. Expectation number one, I expect you to be respectful. I expect you to be responsible, respectful and responsible. If you're not responsible for your action, you're not going to last. You're not going to stay in this program, because you have to be responsible for what? Getting up in the morning, going to your class. You have to be responsible, making practice on time, completing all your homework, taking care of all your let's say your personal business in terms of the administration, whether it's dropping a class, adding a class, registering for enough hours. And you'd be surprised. I mean, those little things like that deter a person from being successful or not. Mm-hmm. And we haven't even gotten into the part with the athletic part about performing. But there's another expectation when it comes to that. I expect you to perform at your maximum ability. And it's just like, now that's just like going back into the classroom, but now it's in the athletic area, right? Student athlete, they just like teaching the lesson, they want to be told what it is the coach expects of me. Because now, once you hear those expectations in your mind, you have to start thinking, can I deliver? What am I going to have to do to deliver? What changes I have to make? What sacrifice I have to make? Because I used to always tell them, in order to be a successful student athlete, you have to go beyond. You have to make some sacrifice. And we used to do this as a team. From the first meeting on a note card, have them list one thing that you're going to sacrifice this year. Write down one thing that you're going to sacrifice. It might be sacrificing, if I drink drinks, Cokes and Pepsi, whatever, I'm going to cut back on that. If I stay up to, playing video game till 2 a.m, I'm going to, cut it off at 12. But you got to show where you're going to make at least one sacrifice for this team. And that's part of the expectation, because I expect you to make sacrifice. And, doing that, it also shows the student athlete that a non-student athlete can go to class, and there's going to be a sorority or fraternity party on Friday night, whatever. But as a student athlete, there's a high possibility that you won't be able to go to that party if you have a 7 a.m. practice on Saturday morning. So there's a sacrifice you're gonna have to make. Just cut me off anytime you get ready, because I'm going on.
No, it's awesome. So how do you motivate students to attend class?
Motivation to attend class, because and that goes back. That's a conversation that's early on in the recruiting process. Okay, I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conversation. When you say, when you come here, I expect you to graduate. I expect you to be at every class. The only time you're going to miss a class is when, we're traveling. And, and we do follow up with instructors. Okay. Mm-hmm. We do progress report throughout the semester. So if you get a report back, someone has missed a class and they can't, give you an excuse, then therefore you drop down in the rotation, and that's the main motivation for a student athlete is playing time.
So we know that students are individuals and they have different goals when they come to college. So in looking at a student as an individual, let's talk about some of the challenges and how you overcome those challenges when motivating athletes. For example, when working with a student who is a transfer student or a student who is going to transfer, how do you motivate the student athlete who wants to, or who is coming in with hours already?
Yeah, excellent. Because now, student athlete, that's the tricky part, and you have to be, all in as a coach. As the student athlete makes sacrifices, you as a coach gonna have to make sacrifice. You're gonna have to sacrifice spending more time away from home, your family if you have one, because you're gonna commit. You have to make a commitment to these young women and young men. Their well-being depends on you. Their future education careers in large part depend on you. Even though, we have academic counselors there at the university, but those students are going to be connected to you. They will come to you before they would go to the academic personnel or student affairs personnel. So when I'm going to take a transfer in first, and then I'll talk about transfer out. When we have a student who are transferring in, the first thing I do is really, I look at the transcript and I get with the admissions and register myself. Like I said, you gotta do some walking and a lot of legwork with these students, because it's your job to keep them on the right track and be upfront with them and look at how many hours are going to be accepted. Let's say you have a student athlete transferring, and we look at this based on eligibility. If you're coming from either a 4-year or a community college, if you participated 2 years, so technically, you should be you're a junior, right, in your sports. So now, does that automatically transfer to a junior at the university where you're transferring to? Not necessarily. So you take the transcript. We look at the transcript. If I get the transcript back and we say, okay, they only accepted of your 60 hours. Of those 60 hours, they only accepted 45. So right there, okay, you're a semester behind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you let them know this. So now how are we going to make this up? You can look at, are you willing to stay here and take a red shirt year and get caught up first? We've done that also. Or are you willing to take overloads, maybe summer, and get caught up and try to get out in 4 years? And let me go back, because first you want to ask them, okay, how long? 4 years. That's what we all work toward, right? Even though what research shows now, 5 to 6 years, right? Right. But let's say if you really want to get out in 4 years, this is what you're gonna have to do. If you okay with 5 years, then maybe this is what you need to do. But if you're gonna stay, let's say if it's 5 years, 3 more years, right? Those 3 years you can only participate in athletics for 2. Now, do you want to participate your last year, or you want to go ahead and catch up and then participate your last 2 years? So you put it to them like that. And now I've had experience with both. I've had experience with one young man. No, they all graduated. One young man, I just want to, I don't want to stop playing because that's what you would get a lot. I said, okay, now, but when you're here in your last year and you're not playing, okay, there's a difference. So, but anyway, he kept playing, came back his last year. He was like, well, coach, man, I wish I would have just listened to you and because I want to be playing now. I said, okay, well, but you chose to do that. So you can, you take that route. Now, if a student athlete is transferring out based on, and there are many different reasons because we can't discuss this without talking about some of the reasons you want to transfer. Right. Number one, I guess if I would ask the audience, the number one reason why probably unhappy with your playing time, or personal coach or a coach, the relationship. Those are some of the reasons. But another reason, a legitimate reason, it could be finance. Like I said in the beginning, that when a student comes to you, you are committed to assisting them, working with them throughout the whole process while they're there, and that process include working with them if they want to transfer. You want to find them a place or help them find a place where they want to go and they think they can be successful. A lot of times they would, in my case, well, I guess I have two experiences. My case as a coach and as an athletic director. Let me talk about that as an athletic director, because as the athletic director, students come to me. I said, well, first of all, have you talked to your coach? I have some saying yes and some saying no. So, and I was like, well, you know what? Okay, so do you sure you want to transfer? And in some cases, they've identified a place, a school. So therefore, I have to, as an athletic director, I have to sign the release. And I would tell the coach, look, anytime you have a student athlete, for whatever reason, if they want to transfer, you support that student athlete. You don't say anything negative that's going to interfere about the student athlete. We still want them to be successful as human. That's the bottom line. So, and where they're going, you want to make sure you submit help them get all the paperwork. Their transcript, they're going to find out how many years of eligibility they have. Now, what the coach they have, nowadays they have film of their performance, so that's not a problem. But it's basically just clear communication. Like we started this podcast off, right? We started talking about clear goals and objectives, but clear communication. One of my pet peeves, or they wouldn't say philosophy, but it's to always be positive toward the student athlete. Because I used to tell them when I recruited them, I said, look, however long it takes for you to graduate, that's where I'm going to support you. I'm going to be here. I had one young man who was there for like 8 years. 8 years before he graduated. He had to stop for one reason or another. He played 4 years, but he finally graduated after 8 years, and we supported him, whether it was through financial scholarship or not athletic scholarships, but we found scholarships on campus to assist him. Because it's a big commitment you make to a school, and you go there to perform. So, and I just believe the school owes the student athlete that in return, to just always be supportive.
What tips do you have? Because you've been fortunate enough, talented enough to serve as program director, professor, athletic director, and coach. So what tips do you have, or what are some of the things that you want faculty to know or want to leave with them about motivating student athletes?
Yeah, excellent. Faculty, because faculty is only going to see student side, then if you go to games and events, meets and stuff, you'll see them perform. But show an interest in the student athlete. Let them know that you understand, what they have to go through, because it's a little different. And you don't ever water down anything, but keep the same expectation. Let them know that, hey, you're expected to do this work. Now, there may be some modification in terms of allowing you time to make up. The work is still due, right? Because you are capable. Just because you're an athlete doesn't mean that you're not smart or intelligent. You know how to work because you show that every day. But just take an interest in letting them know that, hey, I understand that you travel a lot, so you may want to, and just tell them you may want to start on this assignment a little earlier, and don't wait till the last minute. If you know you're going to miss something, let me know. Communicate it with them. Let me know in advance. And that's one of the things that we do. Of course, we have students want to wait to the last minute. That's when the professor comes to me and really upset. So require that the student athlete have clear communication with you, and I guess just be supportive and have high expectation, just like the non-student athlete.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Larry Glover, alumnus of Coahoma Community College.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure talking with you today, and we hope to have you back again.
Oh, anytime. Thank you, Dr. McAfee. I love that place.